Welcome to She Moves Bravely, a podcast dedicated to empowering women through stories of resilience, courage, and success. I'm your host, Shantae Dent. Today, I have the honor of introducing you to a woman who moves bravely. Her name is Lin Green. Lin, welcome to the show.
Hi, Shantae. Thank you so much for having me. I am excited for this opportunity. I've been listening to your podcast. I am a fan, a major fan of the way that you allow people to come in and share their stories. Um, I love that. I love that because that is where I live, so to
Mm,
speak. So I'll tell
mm.
you a little bit about me. I am Lin Green. I'm a writer, an advocate, a blogger, a public speaker here in Orlando, Florida. I'm a community advocate with a background in criminal justice and public administration. And my focus is in the areas of crisis intervention and crisis counseling. So I like to say that I am, as I usually say in a lot of the community forums that I speak, I'm the part of First 48 that you don't get to see.
Mm.
I am that crisis person, the crisis response person that comes in and helps support family through those difficult times. And I'm oftentimes that individual who is giving a death notification. So it can be a very, very tough job, but definitely necessary. I think a lot of people are just not well versed in the process. I currently hold a long-standing position with a government agency here spanning over 15 years, I think. Closer to the 16-year mark at this point. I was recently recognized by Fox News Orlando with recognition for the Care Force Award, which I'm so honored by, and it was a total surprise because I do what I do out of the kindness of my heart, and I'm never expecting that kind of recognition. But it's given to people who do above and beyond the scope of their duty within the community. So that's a little bit about me. I mean, I it's such a loaded question sometimes when people ask me, what do you do? Who are you? Because it's so multifaceted. I'm a lover of people. I give to causes that I am deeply passionate about. I have worked with the Department of Children and Families. I'm a member on an advisory board for a nonprofit that assists homeless children in Title I schools. Um, I'm a part of the Florida Crisis Response Team, Domestic Violence Task Force, Sexual Assault Response Team. So, I mean, I can go on and on for my love of just the community and people and everything that I believe in. And so, of course, in addition to that, I wanted to give back in writing my book, which is called Enough for the Secrets Mama, which was a healing project for me, and a way to help other women heal through their relationships with their mothers.
Lynn, I can already tell the individuals who are privileged to connect with you are blessed. You have a heart to serve, and congratulations on the award you received. You
Thank you.
have a heart to serve. And as you mentioned, it shows up in different capacities in the crisis work, different task force. So thank you. I just want to start by thanking you for doing what you're doing,
Thank
serving. Yeah, serving out of the kindness of your heart. Now, we briefly spoke about your book, and you mentioned that when we talk about this umbrella subject of moving bravely, you've made some brave moves. Clearly, you have. And even in the crisis work, you're helping others make brave moves in their situation as they navigate through their circumstances. And you mentioned with your book,
you. Hmm.
the
Hmm.
mother-daughter relationship. Lynn. I'm telling you now that this is going to hit a lot of people.
Yes.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about what stirred your passion to write the book.
Absolutely. My own relationship with my mother. And I am a mother, so it also touched me in different ways as to why I felt like I needed to heal that relationship. Because when you have a kink in such a maternal, very foundational relationship, it trickles into other parts of your life. So it was important for me to understand who my mother is at the core, where she came from, what happened in her childhood, as much as I could dig, because as the book is titled, it's enough with the secrets. It was really difficult sometimes to get some things out in the moment as I was living throughout my childhood. But I was really dedicated at trying to figure out who she was to the core and why the disconnect within our relationship. So I really explain in the book that I pretty much grew up um, wanting to give my mother no worries. I was that child who wanted to be perfect, who wanted to make sure that it was one thing that I could make her smile about. I was a straight A student. You name it, I was literally the quiet one out of the way. Mom, you're not going to need to worry about me, child. And that's a lot of responsibility on a child. Um, so it's very difficult for a child to have that added pressure while they're still in the developmental stages. In addition to that, I really was dealing with a lot of other things. I felt like I was pretty much cradled between my drug addled brother and my free spirited sister. And here I am, this, quote unquote perfect child, just trying to get her mother's attention.
Lynn, that is a heavy load, a heavy weight, and a burden for a child to carry. And sadly, it's common for children to look at their parent and from their lens decide, it's probably best if I strive to be perfect, straight A student. I don't want to cause my parent any trouble. What can you share with us that was going on in your mind, and how did that transpire over the years?
Yes. So, as a child, it was very difficult to see my mother go through those hard times. Like as I mentioned, my brother was addicted to substances at the time, and we're talking as early as the age of 8. Which I've heard you mention the number 8 a couple times is a very pivotal year in your childhood. We remember those things
Yes,
very vividly.
yes.
And so I recall my mother being just frustrated, anxious,
Mm.
worried, stressed, sometimes depressed, and yet she still got up and tried her very best to raise us, to provide for us. But we knew at the core she just was not happy. So seeing that was difficult as a child, and I wanted her to be happy. So
Mm.
I said, well, what can I do to help her be happy? And I said the only thing I had control over at the time was my schooling and my behavior. So I controlled that to the point where I developed this perfectionist mentality that I learned into my adulthood was detrimental. And then also I developed different um, ways of being within my relationship that were also detrimental to relationships that I was forming. So, it was important for me to delve into the healing process of it all for my own personal healing, and then also so that I'm not passing these things on to my own child. Big, big proponent for breaking generational cycles. I say I've seen a lot of things on social media relating to the one person who's assigned to do that within the family, and I feel like I'm that person. Like it stops here.
Yeah, that's powerful. You're right, Lynn. I do refer to the 8-year-old version of me. I began journaling, and I still have journal entries from 8 years old. And it's funny, when my nieces and nephews and even my kids turn 8, I'm like, all right, get ready. You're 8 now. This is when it really happens. The life is about to unfold. But I don't know why it is something interesting about when you turn 8 years old. And you made a great point, Lynn, how that mindset affected you in your adulthood, and it can affect our relationships, our perspective of ourselves. You also mentioned, oh my goodness, another powerful statement about when you recognize the healing that you needed to experience. And it made me think about something, Lynn. When we look at the lives of our parents, in this case, the life of your mom, and of course, for anyone, it could be their mother or their father, naturally, yes, understandably so, we can take on their weight. As you know, especially in childhood, we are ultra sensitive to our environments, to our parents disposition. And even with our parents, let's call them issues, for now, it is important that we separate the two. That's
Mm-hmm.
my mom's story, or that's my father's story. And as heartbreaking as it is, you're absolutely right. It comes to a point where we must draw like this healthy line, the healthy line of taking care of ourselves while we're still showing care, compassion, and empathy toward our parent, but getting to the point where we have to, break that cycle and understand that I cannot take on the weight or the pain of my parent. And lastly, just want to hold in on you talking about breaking that cycle. Otherwise, we pass it on to our children. And that's a
Absolutely.
powerful statement. So for
Yep.
those of you listening, I always say take notes, and take inventory first of where you are in your life. Moms, are there any childhood wounds or mindsets that you took on and they're manifesting in this unhealthy way in your relationships, either wife or mother or friend or colleague? If so, take note of that and begin that journey of healing. Then I'm going to pass the baton back to you, allow you to continue just sharing your journey and when you did acknowledge, okay, it's time to heal and it's time to break the generational cycle. What did that look like?
Yes. So for me, it was, as in most cases with mothers, it was just hard to have normal conversations. Um, and I realized that something had to change, especially because in so many ways, my mother is really all I had, or all I have, because she's still living, thanks to Jesus. But I wanted to get to a point to address the things that were were affecting me personally. And I knew that part of that was developing boundaries. Um, and in developing boundaries, there had to be a period of time where we had to, there was a pause in conversation between us, because the conversations weren't making sense to me, and I speak about this in the book, where basically that it got to a point where a lot of times when I would call to speak to her, I just wanted to hear, hey, how are you? What do you have going on? What are you doing? How is it going? My mother had literally, and this is a real life example, I had a pre-launch event in November, and it wasn't until she attended that pre-launch event, I had a Spanish translator read my biography for my book, that she realized what I do for a living, the extent of what I dedicate my life to. And I say that not to speak badly on her, but her mind was so, and has been so focused on the other children who've needed her more, so to speak, um, that she didn't build that relationship with me. So I hear that a lot from the conversations that I have with women that are in similar circumstances, where there's this belief that because we are the stronger children, um, we don't need our parents as much.
Mm-hmm.
And in reality, it's the complete opposite. We do need our parents, probably that much more. So I wanted to make sure that I spoke to those women, let them know that they are seen, let them know that there is healing in it. And the most important thing of all is that there is healing despite your mom's healing. she may never get to that place where you want her to be. And that is my reality. And I have learned to have compassion still, and just shower her with grace, and understand I will meet you where you are, and things are going to be okay.
We already know there are a lot of women who can resonate and attest to the story, and they don't understand how to handle it. I am so thankful for your transparency and sharing. When you're sharing about the difficulty of being that strong daughter, the strong sibling, I like that you normalized the reality is our parents, folks around us can assume that we don't need the support or the same amount of love and attention. Actually, we do, if not the same or more, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of what's fueling the behavior and the accomplishments is the lack of the attention and the love. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, yeah, those dots are not easy to connect. And we feel like, oh, the accomplished one, that one is just fine. But there's
Right.
often the behind the scenes that we don't see.
Yes.
And I wholeheartedly agree. And I hope this brings a level of freedom and empowerment to someone who's listening. When it
Absolutely.
and that when it comes to the healing, mm, even if mom, dad, other family members choose not to, or for whatever reason they don't experience transformation, please don't allow them to hinder your healing, your growth, and your
Mm-hmm.
transformation. That's an essential message, and I love that you made that statement. We both know connecting with different women a lot of times, and men as well, but there's so much love in our heart that we feel like we're leaving people. If I move forward, if I heal and recover and break the cycle and go in a different direction, that sometimes like you feel guilty. I don't want to leave my family. But you mentioned another powerful word, healthy boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, when we can put healthy boundaries in place, we can do just as you said, Lynn, with your mom. There's still the love, the honor, and the respect. You also realize it gets to the point where you have to move forward in your own life so you're not continuing the cycle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, that was very important for me because there's so many things that we read, and see and hear, and I mean movies and all these things that you see on TV. There's always a happy ending, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's not always a happy ending in real life. You have
That's
to
right.
make your own happy ending sometimes. And sometimes that means coming to grips with the fact that there are certain circumstances in your life that are not going to change because we don't have control, right? It is by God's will that we experience the life that we experience while we're here on this earth. And a lot of times, those things are put in place along our path and in our journey to teach us things, to teach us to be resilient in those hard moments and understand that we don't have control, that only He does, and that we are to just have faith and believe that our lives are purposed to be what they are for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. As early as childhood, I remember telling myself this, and it's crazy because I was in elementary school. So what I knew about being a victim, other than my watching of Oprah, because I was a big Oprah fan, um, I said I am not going to be a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I remember telling myself that I do not want to be a victim. And so what does that mean? I have to push through. I have to make sure that I'm doing all the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm getting to the next level in my life, that I'm going to make my parents proud, that I'm going to make myself proud, that I'm not going to let my experiences jade me to the point of not enjoying life. And I did the very best I could. In my childhood. Of course, we all know as we get into adolescence, we have a little more complications, more influences, more experiences that we live that also then affect the way we live our lives and who we become. But those, again, are also experiences that are placed in our path to help us learn and grow. And so I love that we are constantly learning and growing and evolving in life. I don't think there's one person that has mastered the art of living. Um, because there are going to be, little things that are falling within our path that we have to learn to navigate around. But I learned to enjoy that part, and in doing that, I felt like I needed to share that. I remember the one person in particular said to me one day, "How do you do it? How do you remain so positive?" And so I want to preface with saying I have not always been so positive. I've been like this, and I heard someone say this in one of your previous podcasts, that they were that worry ward, that like person that was always concerned about, well, what if this happens and what if that happens, and I was that person.
Mm.
But the moment I learn to do, as the word says, renew my mind and really focus on having control over the things that take precedence in my mind, that control my thinking, I completely changed my thought process and completely changed my life, because
Yeah.
I figured I will not allow negative things to take control over every aspect of my being. And so I developed this inspirational blog platform called Issalivestyle in 2020, at the height of all of the COVID issues, because I saw the mental health crisis that we were beginning to experience. And I said, I need something positive that can give people hope. And so that's really how I started back on my writing journey, was by creating this platform that people can go and read and be inspired
Mhm.
by my stories, my experiences, and additional things. I do live requests all the time. What can I write about that would help you this week? And that ultimately is my goal, just to help others.
I like that a lot. When I hear about your journey and connecting with you now, I see this woman who is incredible. The way you think, the way you choose to live your life, and the way you choose to serve. You are an example to others, to other women, an example of how you can move bravely through any situation. And as you mentioned, Lynn, there are many experiences that we are not asking for. We can't control, what comes our way, but we can control our response, our behavior. Thoughts might come, but what are we doing with those thoughts? And this is a positive way, a growth mindset that I would encourage everyone to take on. As you alluded to, the Word of God does instruct us to renew our minds. And what I'm hoping our listeners can take away from your story, from our conversation, is even when the unexpected, the uncontrollable happens, you still have a choice to go in a different direction. You have a choice to break the generational cycle. We will never tell you it's the easiest, simple, happens overnight thing to do. What we will tell you is that it's possible, and we will encourage you along the way. And then I love that you are creating, or that you have created, that platform to encourage others to even have the lives and ask them on a live broadcast, what would you like me to write about? That's clever. I love it. How can people connect with you? And again, we do want you all to support Lynn and learn what you can learn from her book, Enough with the Secrets, Mama.
Yes. Well, certainly they can connect with me on all social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook, under It's a Lifestyle. That's IS as in Sam, as in Sam, A live, like live, LIVE style. It's a play on It's a Lifestyle. So you can find me there on ISSALIVESTYLE. Instagram, and Facebook. On my website, which is www.issalivestyle.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn for those who want to connect with me professionally. I always get a lot of questions for collaborations with people, and I'm always open to doing that because as long as we can continue to spread the word, I'm all for that. My book, Enough with the Secrets Mama, is currently available for pre-order everywhere you buy books. So Barnes and Nobles, Target, Walmart, Amazon, you name it, you can find it. And I am, for those people who are listening who may be local to the Orlando, Florida area, have a book signing at the Altamont Springs Mall, Barnes and Noble, May 14th at from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So I am very much looking forward to meeting, connecting with people personally for that.
Exciting. Lynn, I am excited about your future. I am excited about all that transpires in your lineage as you have chosen to break the generational cycle. Ladies, gentlemen, those who are listening, connect with Lynn. And yes, if you are in the Orlando area, show up and show Lynn love at her book signing. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments, Lynn. And I know there's so much more in store for you. Thank you for moving bravely, and thank you for serving others and assisting them as they move bravely throughout their journeys as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for all you're doing to heighten our stories. Truly grateful for you.
My pleasure.